I completely empathize with wanting to tell everyone probably about your new book, which even if I were to ask you, you probably would have to say I can make no comment at this time.
No, actually, it's been announced, so I can say a little bit about what it is. It is called Resilience, and it is the story. It is a book that is told from the perspective of a Mars rover whose name is Resilience, though in the book they are affectionately referred to as Res. And it's all about their journey from their creation in NASA's JPL lab all the way to Mars. And so it's a book about exploration and curiosity and Res's sort of pondering of what makes a human, what makes a rover. So I'm really excited about it. I also, it is not in verse, but it is in a really sparse, scaled back writing style, which was really fun to kind of return to that after Shape of Thunder is a much more meaty prose book. So it's fun to kind of play with both types of styles.
I saw that you had managed to avoid the trap of becoming just a prose writer after a Newbery Honor for your prose book. Was there a moment of pressure after that where, hey, this really worked out for you? You should do this from now on, or was it always just do what you want and you come back to the style when you like?
You know, I was lucky enough that I'd sold the Shape of Thunder even before Other Words for Home came out. So I had no idea that Other Words for Home was going to have the reception that it had. I think that's kind of the biggest blessing any writer could have. I think that if I was starting to write a book after January of 2020, when I'd gotten that phone call, if that's when I sat down to write my next book, I would have had a lot more paralysis. But I got to kind of write The Shape of Thunder and kind of you know, I panicked a lot around April of 2020 when it was getting closer to being done and being like, this is the book I'm choosing to follow up this book with. Why? Should I have done another verse novel? Should I be doing a book that is this heavy and challenging after this book? What am I doing? But I'd already made, that was a choice that I'd made without knowing I would have an audience that was going to likely a lot of readers associate the book with Other Words for Home. But you have to let that go, right? And I feel, like I said, I feel lucky that I didn't know that. And I definitely don't, I talk about this a lot with my publishing team, that I really do not want to ever be branded as a certain type of writer. I feel like I have lots of different ideas and lots of different styles that I want to try. And so I think that it would have not been great for me to do another verse novel right after Other Words for Home, but I want to do other verse novels. I love verse novels. I'll return to verse novels, but I want to not have my name only be associated with verse novels. But luckily that was never an issue because, like I said, I sold The Shape of Thunder way before Other Words for Home even came out, and I had no idea. I don't think anybody really ever has any idea that something like that is going to happen. But I think that is freeing in some ways, that this is not a calculated follow-up to the book. In lots of ways, it's anything but. I think if you ask someone, oh, what should you follow a pretty gentle and beloved Newbery Honor book with? Oh, a really challenging, messy, brainy story about time travel and gun violence. I don't think necessarily that's what a marketing expert would tell you to do, but I think that that's where my brain took me, and I think that that's what we always have to do. We have to follow our brain and our heart and write the story that comes to us at the time, not necessarily the story that makes the most sense. And now that I'm saying this, I don't even know what that story that makes sense to follow Other Words for Home is. That's what I mean. I think that if I had come at that from that place, I'd be in a real state of paralysis, because what does that mean? What does that look like? Whereas here I can be this is this book, and it is the way that it was always supposed to be, and nothing about it was altered to adjust to any of those expectations, because I didn't know they would be there, you know?
It's a very strong argument for always be writing. Just go ahead and write your next book. Don't worry about what the current one's doing. So that's a double-edged sword. If it hadn't done well, then you'd be like, oh my gosh, that book didn't do well, and neither will anything else that I write. So we would have been paralyzed either way.
Yeah, that's why I think it is. Like, it's so important to always be in love with the next thing, as we talked about, that I feel like I am. Like, I think it's so important to always, and I also think like that's the best thing for your creative spirit, which is the thing I'm the most interested in. But I also think it's the best thing for a career, because nothing sells your backlist books like your frontlist books. So the best thing, if you're worried about, you know, if I had been in May of 2019 stressing about Other Words for Home, the best thing I still could have done for it was to write the next book, because that's going to get you back out talking about books, back out getting your name out there, which is what sells your previous books. So I think that, but I'm more concerned, like I said, with your creative spirit. And I think that that's the way to stay in it for the long haul. Because I think publishing is an industry that has lots of really high highs and also lots of really low lows. And I think that you have to make it about the writing, and kind of divorce the writing from publishing as much as you can. And I try to do that. And I try to just like be in love with writing and being a writer, and then put on my publishing hat when I have to about it, but not necessarily have that viewpoint bleed as little as possible into my writing as I can.